I wanted to paint an eggplant because, well, mostly because I adore them, but also the other day at the local co-op market, they had these local eggplants, and it's not that it's necessarily going to be much better than something that comes from California. I would like to be living in a place where I could really be happy about buying local, but some things just need more sun and heat than Vermont can provide. But be that as it may, I just fell in love with this particular one. I bought 4 because one of these is not even worth cooking in my view. But I just thought the shape is so adorable, and granted, this is some kind of blemish that probably comes from something eating it that shouldn't have, but it's just so lovely. And I finally found, again, this adorable pencil that I bought in Prague a few years back. It's a Czech brand, Koh-i-Noor, and I'm enjoying using it. I will be using for this my handmade watercolors that I've been making. I've really been enjoying this process of sourcing pigments from shops, by the way, not. There are watercolor makers, and I applaud their efforts, who actually source their pigments from the earth and then grind them. And you know, I tried grinding a little bit with some rocks that I found that are part of my kids' collection, and it's just not for me. It's too much effort. And so I applaud the people who do, but the kind of sourcing I'm talking about is traveling both online, because there are a lot of wonderful places to buy pigments online, but also over the summer I like looking at different art shops in Europe. So when I make watercolor paint, I often have leftovers that don't quite fit in the little half pans, which is where the colors usually go. You know, it's a standard size for watercolors. So I put the extras in bottle caps, and the reason I do that is both because it's very easy to put them there, and also because, see, you end up with extra space, and that's where I can water them down. It didn't work so well here. These are kind of unusual bottle caps. I think they're meant for decorative purposes. But I just do this. I end up with very many. This is one of them, and I have more here, and I just enjoy working with them like this. And I put a little, I write on the back what the pigment is, and I put a little adhesive magnet, just like I do with the paints that I sell in tins. So this is like one of my tins. I bought these mint tins, and I take the mints out, throw them out in most cases because I'm not a big mint fan. And then I end up with little palettes. I have many, but for my home use, I prefer to use these larger containers. So what I use so far is a Bohemian Green Earth, which I bought in France. It's a German pigment that is not really available here, but it's really my favorite green earth. And I use this, I called Firestone because in Italian it was called something infuocato. And I bought this in Rome. I'm quite fond of it because it's a very old shop downtown Rome that is an art supply shop that I used to walk by all the time before I did any kind of painting, and I knew it was there. And then when I was painting but not making paints, I'm always fighting with not enough space when I travel to Europe. So I tried hard not to go into that shop so as not to be tempted to buy things for which I don't have space. But with pigments, I kind of had an excuse to look for unusual pigment, and sure enough, they have their own line, if you can call it that. It's all very informal. Now this eggplant is not really eggplant color in my book. It's much browner than the eggplants in Italy. And to paint it, I'm using a color that I mixed from 2 single pigment colors that I got in Paris at the Sennelier shop. And I think it's a more accurate rendition of what eggplant should look like. I'm gonna let this dry and come back for a second layer, but because there's ultramarine in this mix for my aubergine, I called it, because the word eggplant is not very pretty, I think. There's going to be some granulation, and I'm happy to encourage that. And actually, another thing I'm going to do before stopping here to let it dry is add a little bit of what I call Venice. It's often called Venetian red, and it's an earth color that comes, as the name says, from the area around Venice. And the paper is an Amalfi handmade paper, my absolute favorite paper to work with. And look at how the granulation is happening. I just love it. So let's let this dry before coming back. Now, something you can see well, even in this not very high quality video, is the fact that there is a shadow. A shadow that doesn't quite fit in this page. And I'm going to try and create a shadow color. This is where my watercolors don't yet measure up to Daniel Smith Shadow Violet. I hope to get there. I haven't really given it too much work yet, but I'm mixing this mostly blue aubergine color with this mostly brown Venice color. And those two colors are somewhat complementary. Blue and brown are, but aubergine and Venice, not so much. So I have more of a purple than anything else, but it'll do. And I'm going to give some dimension to this. I don't know what you call it exactly. This is going to need another pass. And I haven't really tried, I should have, but didn't try to capture that shine. And the kind of belly button of the eggplant is in a strange place. It's part of the charm of this particular eggplant. This is kind of unusual shape. That's why I picked it. And I want to do something to suggest a certain drama. There we go. This is a color I call rouge because it's a French color from Sennelier. So I'm gonna let this dry again. I'm happier with this than I thought I would be, so I hope I'm not gonna mess it up now. I just wanna give some definition here. And because green and red are complementary colors, they gray each other out, which is exactly what I would want here. Now I realize that my eggplant is a lot more colorful than the original, but I'm okay with that. I think I tend to see the world in a more colorful way than it is, and I enjoy that. I'm not gonna fight it. And watercolor is a chance for me to express the way I see things, as it should be for you. I mean, if I want to have a forever or so memory of this eggplant the way it is, I could take a picture of it. I mean, I like it, but I don't like it that much. It's more of the whimsical shape of it makes me feel good, gives me joy. So I'm just trying to express in this little painting that joy that this eggplant gives me. And in the process of expressing it, it becomes stronger, more lasting, and I like that. So I'm going to stop here before I mess it up too much. My little eggplant